ahead and remove these lug nuts and get the wheel pulled off. I'm going to go ahead and loosen the jam nut here on the inner tie rod and the outer tie rod unit. Just want to get that loose, and that is now loose. Next, we're going to go ahead and remove this nut right here. I'm going to go ahead and give the knuckle a few taps right here so we can go ahead and loosen that outer tie rod end. So now what we want to do is count the amount of revolutions it takes to spin the outer tie rod off of the inner tie rod. That way, when we reinstall the new component, we'll thread it back on the same amount of thread so we can get a preliminary setting for an alignment. Let's go ahead and start this. About 10. In order to get the bellows boot off, I want to go ahead and pinch this hose clamp together and pull that off. Pinch that, work that off. Now there's also a band on the inside. Might be a little complicated to get to. We're actually going to go ahead and try and use a flathead screwdriver to just get in the backside and break that band off so we can go ahead and slide this boot off. Now we do want to go ahead and remove this nut. That way we can slip the bellows boot off of the inner tie rod. Now on the inside here, there's a metal clamp right here. All right, and we're going to use a flathead screwdriver just to kind of get underneath, and we're going to give it a few taps and work that off. So we're having a hard time pulling the boot off of the inner tie rod. So we'll simply take a razor. You can go ahead and cut that, so you can go ahead and open that and try and slide that off there. So put the knife down, prevent additional injuries. Let's see if we can slide that off now. There we go. I'm going to go ahead and install the inner tie rod remover tool. Now I'm going to go ahead and try and loosen this here. Remove the tie rod tool. You want to pay attention to this washer on the back side here. You can notice that the sides were tapped over. So what we're going to do is we're going to take that off. Pay attention to the two tabs. These will be facing inward, and the tabs will be rolled outward. You want to pay attention. You have a new washer on here, similar to the factory one, has little tabs. So now I'm going to go ahead and remove these protective components and go ahead and install this unit. We'll go ahead and get the inner tie rod threaded on. What you want to do is make sure so that washer that we're referring to, you can see the tab itself going into the notch on the rack. So that's supposed to lock into place. We'll snug that down. Now we're going to go ahead and use our inner tie rod tool to tighten that up. Okay, once that's tight, I'm going to go ahead and remove this tool. All right, now we're going to go ahead and we're going to use a punch here to go ahead and flatten over the edge of this washer here a little bit. And go ahead and apply the grease into the part of the steering rack inner tie rod unit here. You can move it around, pack that inside there. Okay, so once that's packed up inside, let's go ahead and get the boot on. So I'm going to go ahead and work this rubber boot, the bellows boot, onto the rack. Once this pops on, tighten up the zip tie and cut off the excess. And take the old outside clamp, pinch that, and put that on. Go ahead and thread on the jam nut. So you want to go ahead and install the new tie rod end, and remember the 10 count to get the old one off. It'll be 10 threads on for this one here. Okay, so that was 10. We're going to go ahead and just bring that jam nut over. Now we'll go ahead and get this lined up. Gonna work that on and get that castle nut started. I'm gonna now go ahead and torque down the outer tie rod nut to 47 foot-pounds. Now you want to take your cotter pin, slide that through. And you can use a pair of pliers or your finger. You go ahead and bend that right on over. Then you can go ahead and snip off any excess. And you want to go ahead and take a look at that jam nut right now. This is something I want to go ahead and tighten. I want to go ahead and snug up this jam nut. Make sure that's tight. Once that's snug, the last thing you want to do, so once that jam nut is tight, you now want to go ahead and grab a wrench. You just want to make sure that your tie run is level. It's not twisted one way or the other. Just make it nice and straight. You're all set. I'm going to go ahead and reinstall the wheel. Get that lined up. You want to go ahead and get the lug nuts all started by hand. I'm going to go ahead and snug up these lug nuts. Now I'm going to go ahead and torque the wheels to 79 foot-pounds. I'm going to do this in a crisscross pattern.